Gracie, did you finally get everything out that I told you to and was on your list so we can make our tuna dish tonight? Well, here I come. It better be all out there. Yep, looks like she's got the tuna out. Now, I only told her 2 cans. I wonder what the third's for. I'll have to ask her. Yep, there's the peas. The mushrooms. Yep. Salt, pepper. She's got the flour. The bread. One thing's missing. I knew she wouldn't get it all. She probably forgot about what was in the fridge there. Yeah, we'll have to get that out now too. Yep, gotta have some milk. And some butter too. Well, that's about all. Oh, well, hello there, friends and family. So good to see you again. Yeah. Well, as you can see, we got a bunch of stuff out on the counter, and we're ready to go. And like always, we're glad to see you back. You're always welcome here in the little old country kitchen. Y'all know. So, hey, let me show you what we got going on and what we're going to be doing with our ingredients. And this is a very old recipe that goes all the way back to my great-grandmother from the Great Depression, one of the hardest times in U.S. history. So, grab a chair, a cold drink, and a snack, and sit on down, and let's get to it. Yeah, like always, it looks like I've got a lot out, but it's really not, because I'm not going to be using it all. And what we've got out here is, of course, Gracie got 3 cans out, and I talked to her about it. I told her only 2, and she said 1 was for her, too. So we'll set it aside. But we'll be using 2 cans of the Star-Kiss chunk light tuna and water we are. We'll be using a half a can of some Libby's sweet peas. Now this is something I do differently than my great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother did. When they would put sweet peas in them, which on occasionally they did, they'd use some of them their fancy LeSueur early sweet peas. I don't want to pay that much that they're so proud of. And something I added as I went along was some mushrooms, because I really like them too. And the basic recipe just calls for salt, but I like a little bit of black pepper bite, so I throw it on in there with it. Yep, and then you gotta have some flour. All purpose will work just fine. You gotta have some butter, which we got right here. Sweet cream, salted butter is what I prefer. Some whole milk. And that's a deviation too that my mother started to do sometimes during my childhood, because the original recipe calls for evaporated milk. And then we're going to be eating it on toasted bread, which is what they did primarily all the time. Even back, I'm thinking, in the Great Depression too, because it didn't get no cheaper than that. But I have the original recipe right here, wrote right on down. Yep, it calls for 1 7-ounce can of tuna. Yes, it does. And that just tells you, back then, a can of tuna was a lot larger than it is now. 1 tablespoon of butter, 1 tablespoon of flour, 1/2 cup of evaporated milk, and 1/2 cup of water. And that sort of makes sense that my mother changed to the whole milk. Because if you're familiar with how they used to have on the back of the can of evaporated milk, the ratio you needed to make whole milk. And it was actually 1 cup of evaporated milk to 1 cup water, a 50-50 mix. So yep, at some point in time, she just changed the whole milk. A 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and of course, the ladies in my family included a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper too. Yeah, and the original recipe only had the salt. I can understand that, especially during the Great Depression, when 30% of America was out of work or more, A lot of people work for food. I can remember my grandfather telling me the stories of what they would do. Yep. And then, at some point in time, the ladies in my family added sweet peas to it as well to make it the more filling and stretch it out. And primarily, we had this over toast. But on occasion, what my grandmother and mother liked to do was serve it over mashed potatoes. Sometimes even over rice. And noodles too. You could do biscuits or even cornbread if you wanted to. So that's it. But instead of one 7-ounce can, I'm going to be using 2 of the 5-ounce cans. And I increase the butter. Well, I use 1 tablespoon per can, but this only equals 10 ounces. 3 ounces over the 7-ounce can. So it's a little more butter and a little more flour, but I think it makes a richer and much more creamier white sauce. So there you have it. That's my version of it. Now I'll say this, because it's pretty popular today, because I guess people are sauce challenged, and they'll take the easy way out, and I must admit, I've done it a time or two, and they just substitute making their own white sauce for a can of cream of mushroom soup. And that's when I did it one time, because I was out of butter. I had the flour, but no butter. So I just figured I'd dump a can of cream of mushroom in. How bad could it be? And that's when I found out I like mushrooms in it too. But that's not what we're going to be doing tonight. We got plenty of time. We're going to make it all from scratch. So, I've got to get some cans opened out, drain some tuna, and we'll get this over in the skillet and start putting it together. It ain't hard, okay? Well, we got our pan heating up, and that's very important. Oh, we pop the pan. Reason being, we want to get our base for our white sauce, melt our butter, and add the flour in while the pan is low, because we don't want to burn the butter and scorch the flour. We just want to cook the flour off so it doesn't have that floury taste. Well, I preheated my pan, and to make the butter melt a little faster than what it might, we're going to just cut it up into little slices, just like that. And you can see, it's already melting away, it is. Whoops, we like to drop that one. Well, we did, but the stove caught it, and that's okay. Thankfully, I washed the stove off before I started. It's all sanitized, or at least where the butter hit. And you can see that butter is just melting away. And our pan's set on low, so it won't burn our butter. We don't want that. We're making a white sauce here. We just want it nice and slow. You see that? It ain't hard. If you put it in your pan and immediately see that it's starting to smoke, which means it's burning, that of course is not good. So there we go, we got our butter in. It ain't hard. Now we're going to start adding our flour in. And we're going to put in 1 level tablespoon. Sort of shake it around. And then we're going to add, another level tablespoon or so. That one ain't quite too level, so we'll give it just a little bit more. And there we go. Then, what you're going to do is take your flour, mix it up with that butter. Yep, that's what you do. This is the way you can ensure that you will not have a lumpy sauce. And you can do this with your gravy too. Okay? So we got our butter all melting really fine. Got all that flour mixing in. And you're just going to want to let it cook a minute or two. Yep, this ain't a roux. We don't want to start getting it too dark. No, we don't. And then what you're going to do is get your milk. And you don't want to pour the whole cup in right from the start. Pour you in about 1/4 of a cup. And mix that in too. Just like that. And this is the hardest part of doing this. Yes, it is. We'll add a little bit more because it's starting to dry out. A little bit more, and we're just going to keep mixing it up. That's a fact. And if the spoon ain't cutting it, you can always get a whisk out and do that as well. It just takes a little bit more work with the spoon than it does with a whisk. I need to get me one of them silicone whisks. I had one and it threw a tong. But I haven't poured it all in yet, see? To make it easier on me to get all that butter flour mixture all worked in. Okay? Looky there. It's coming right together. The flour's cooking off, so it's not going to taste like flour. Because I've had some of that too. I learned this a long time ago when I took a summer job in a restaurant. Yep, it wasn't the plan, but it came about. And there's the remainder of our 1 cup of milk right there. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but we don't have any lumps at all. You see that? Ooh, starting to look fine. Now we're ready to start adding other things in. Let me rinse out that cup. So now we can start adding in our tuna. And we're going to be using 2 5-ounce cans of tuna. In case I didn't say, it's the Starkist brand tuna and water. And it has been drained. Yes, it has. We'll just get them on in there best we can. Break them up a little. Just like that. They'll break up more as we mix everything else together. Here comes the second can. But don't forget to rinse your, drain your cans. Yeah, like I always do, I let the kitty crew have the water from the cans on their evening food. So we got our tuna on in there. Looks like there'll be plenty. Yes, sir. That's coming together nicely. It surely is. We'll just let that heat up a little and cook a little more. We'll give it a little more heat now because it should be okay. So we're going to kick it up to a good 1 on my stove. Still, we're not putting it on a raging quick fire. One, it don't need it. Now look at that. Creamy tuna. Now back during the Great Depression, the only thing it would need right now to call it a meal would be add a little salt. And it's at this stage I like to add the salt. Yes, I do. So we're going to add in that 1/4 teaspoon, most likely just a touch more. That'll be okay. It's just a flavor enhancer, and that's not much. And now we're going to go in with a 1/4 teaspoon of pure ground black pepper. We are. There we have that. And we're going to give it a stir. Incorporate the salt and pepper all in, because it's at this stage I like to do a little taste test and see if my seasoning's just right. Now, if you want to add a little garlic powder, onion powder on in there, you can do that too. I have at times, but right now I'm just making it to this point, just like they did in the Great Depression, and my great-grandmother did too. Because this was how I ate it the very first time, just like this. And it was over toast. So let me get a spoon and give it a quick taste test for you. Let's give it a little taste test. Oh yeah, that is just right. I'm telling you. Now we're going to add in not this whole can of peas, and I'm dropping them everywhere, somewhere around a 1/2 can. Now I don't want the peas overpowering the tuna. That wouldn't be good. But I'll tell you this, they had another dish back in the Great Depression called cream peas. And it was that same white sauce with sweet green peas. I think that'll be enough. That's a 1/2 can. And we'll give it a mix right there. So everybody's gonna get some peas. Another thing that's changed in tuna these days, from way back in the day, and I've seen pictures of what tuna looked in the can, and it was much more flakier than what we have now. Now, you'll see a big old chunk just every once in a while. So there we got that in there. The only thing to do is add our mushrooms in. And that was 1 7-ounce can of whole mushrooms. You could use ends and pieces. I have too. But even then I chopped them up some, because I want them to be the size of the peas. Look at that. Woo! It's time to give it. We'll let that all heat through. But I'm going to grab another spoon and give it the final taste test. So I cleaned off my spoon. Let's see if we can get some of it here all together. The peas and the mushrooms. Ooh, look at there, look at there. I'm telling you, it's gonna be good. Oh yeah. It really is. So we're going to just let that continue to heat there on low, because it ain't going to burn. And see how long that took? It wasn't long at all. So let me get the counters all cleaned up, and I got to get Gracie toasting the bread. Now, as you can see, we got our bread lightly toasted, the way I just like it. And we cut it in the triangles we did, to make it fancy, you know. So let's get a serving spoon and start serving some up. Now to find the spoon. I know I got one somewhere around here. So let's dish it on up, because it's all piping hot now. Ooh, we're just going to put it right on there, just like this. Make sure we get plenty on there, because there's plenty here. There we go. Put that back over on the stove. Turn the heat off and cover it up, so it'll cool a little before we put it up. Now, the only thing left is to do a taste test. Ooh, but let me bring you over here and let you take a look at this. Ooh, look at right there. Yes, sir. It looks like something out of one of them fancy restaurants, or at least the local diner. Well, it gets 5 Mr. Tom stars at least. So yeah, let's take a taste test and see how it all came out. Well, y'all, you're gonna have to pardon my appearance. It's getting rather late, so we're just gonna cut us a little piece off of this here fine cream tuna and toast with peas and mushrooms, and give it the old taste test right here. Woo! Looking good to me. Oh yeah. That brings back memories. I'm telling you what. Whew. You better hold on to your pants, because it might slap them right off. Now, this is the basic recipe. And yeah, I jazzed it up. I added some peas and mushrooms too. And if you want it, tuna got swimming around in there. If you want a creamier sauce, just use straight evaporated milk. Or if you want to go full-blown creamy, use half and half. And that will make it all so much better too. Now, another thing you can do, say you're lactose intolerant and you can't stand the butter or the milk. I've made this when I've been slap out of both. So I just used a couple tablespoons of cooking oil, worked my flour into that, and then for my juice, rather than milk, I used chicken broth. And that worked well too. I didn't mind a bit when I done it a time or two. So there you have it. And I'm rather hungry, and it's late, and I must look atrocious tonight. Yeah, I didn't even get cleaned up. And this is the second video I've made today. You know, the one I made where I showed you with the cans of tuna out and the peas, and asked you, what would you do with some cans of tuna too? And like I told you, I wouldn't even start reading those comments, so I wouldn't let you sway my mind. I'd read them either tonight while I'm eating, later tonight before I go to bed, or it could be tomorrow too. But I hope you give it a try, and maybe let me know if you've done this too. So hey, like I say, I'm starving to death, and it's getting rather late. It's 7 o'clock at night, and I'm ready to eat. So if you'd like some too, there's more plates in the cupboard as always. Toast you up some bread and help yourself. You're more than welcome to. So until the kitty crew, you know them all, Cleo, Spooky, Speedy, sometimes Heathcliff, which is doing just fine now, and on occasion Fluffy Muffin too, and then of course the Princess Gracie here inside. See you on that next episode of Mr. Tom's Neighborhood. Take care out there, my friends and family. Stay safe. Get through life the best you can. And may God bless all of you too. Good night for now. Oh yeah, I'm more than ready to eat. It's been a long day here. Yes, it has. I'm tired. I'm way hungry. And I'm just ready to chow down. Ooh, yes I am. This brings back childhood memories from my great-grandmother, my grandmother, and my mother too. Oh, excuse me, y'all. Later. Oh yeah. Ooh, super filling. Brings back those boyhood memories. So good.